What's up? We got H2O Season 1, Episode 2, Pool Party. So this episode starts off with Emma just, getting in her bath and basically turning into a mermaid. So let me see, Cleo and let me see Cleo and she's talking with. There's Emma and she's talking, but she Cleo and she she basically turns into a mermaid, and her sister Kim's like, hey, you have to take the lifts to school, Cleo, and Kim's like, Cleo's like, nah, she'll walk. That was not a very good job Australian impression, but. So she decides to call Emma, and she and Ricky are, doing the swim scenes, doing the very good swim scenes. So Cleo's like, Emma, this moisturizer has water, which means that they'll probably be moisturized and be wrinkly by they're 21, and Emma starts talking about how she missed swim practice, and she's like, hey. And she's like, hey, we need to tell someone about their parents, their doctor, and she's like, Cleo, you can't tell anyone, and she's like, you can't tell anyone about this because people will just think they're crazy. And she's like, well, she'll just tell her mom. And then she's like, nah, you can't tell your mom that either. And she's like, why? Because they can do things that other girls can't do. So she's like, she'll just tell Lewis. And she's like, then Ricky's like, Cleo, you can't tell Lewis, you can't tell anyone. And she's like, okay, I'm very good at keeping a secret. Yeah, she's basically like, hey Lewis, everything's good, everything's okay, her day's very good. And he's like, yeah, and he's like, are you going to Miriam's party? And she's like, yeah, she's totally going. And she's like, then Miriam says, it's a pool party, and she's like, about that, she's not going. That's basically the entire episode. She basically changes her mind between she is going, and then they're like, oh, Jesus. Then they're like, hey, we should totally go to that party because if we don't, we'll never get invited ever again, and then we'll never get invited any of Miriam parties ever again. So then Cleo's like, oh yeah, we'll never get invited. So then she's like, hey, we should go to that party for Byron, not for Miriam. Because totally Byron, and then Ricky's like, ooh, you like Byron, and Emma's like, no I don't, and then, so she's like, I'll text Lewis that we're going, and then he's like, hey, I got a text that you're going to Miriam's party, and she's like, no, I'm not. And he's like, Cleo, you keep changing your mind. First you say you're going, then you say you're not going, then you say you're going again, and then you say you're not. Just make up your mind. So then Louis makes a joke about last episode about how he says, hey Zane, I heard you were soaked last time. And he's like, hey. He's like, Louis, if you mention that to anyone, I'll break you. Then Byron's like, yo, bro, don't listen to him. He's all talk, man. Byron's the chill one. We should listen to Byron. He's the chill one. He's the chill one. So Cleo's like, hey, we have to test this theory. And she's like, no, I'm she's like, hey Cleo, are you going to Miriam's party for like the 100th time I've asked you for this entire episode? And she's like, no, I'm not going. But I actually am, because, and he's like, hey, and yeah, Cleo and Ricky are just, Emma and Ricky are just mermaids mermaids behind a rock, and they're naked, Louis, and he's like, can I go for a little dip then? And she's like, and they're like, just go home, Louis. And he's like, Emma's like, Louis, did you just want to see two ladies be naked? I'm gonna pretend I did not hear my boy Louis say that and move on with my life. Cause that was really weird. Louis just said he wanted to see two girls naked. Cause if two girls were naked, so yeah. So yeah, so Cleo decides to call Miriam and say, yeah, so then, oh yeah. So yeah, so Ricky gets annoyed with Cleo and Emma because they kept whining and whining and whining, or as Ricky calls it, whinging and whinging and whinging. I have no idea what that means, but that's what the Australians did. And she's like, I don't, and she's like, Cleo, you can have power with, you can activate water from mid-air. And Emma, you just created an instant icy pop with your hand. Oh, I don't even have a power. A lot of people would do that stuff. And I want to be friends. And all you do is whine and whine and whine. Because she was saying about how she missed her swim. And she's like, because she was swimming since she was 6 months old. And then Cleo's like, say goodbye to that dream, because they're mer freaks now. So, yeah. So, yeah. Even Emma's parents are wondering. So, yeah, so yeah. And what is Lewis's favorite description of Ricky? Is that she's a stonefish that uses her poison to kill all the football players. The high school players. Okay, Lewis, that is your description of best girl Ricky. Very interesting. So they decided to. So she's like, so she's like, hey Louis, she just wants to be alone. And he's like, hey, do you anything we're going with Cleo? And she's like, what if she doesn't like you? And he's like, you ever thought about that? And he's like, yeah, I did. But she always hangs out with you, so there must be a good reason. And she's like, Louis, I won't tell you. And he's like, I know there is. And she's like, I'm not even talking to him in that moment. But then she activates her power, which Ricky's power is to heat things up. So she basically heats that root beer, and he's basically like, it's hot. Is this some ideas of a joke? And then she reveals her power, and Emma basically apologizes, and she basically tests her power to Emma off screen, because they don't show it on screen, because Louis is like, are you naked again? And she's like, go, Louis. And he's like, this is my time to fit, and I'm fishing. And she's like, shouldn't you be following Cleo around? And he's like, no. And then, no, she just keeps changing her mind whether she's going. And she's like, it's Cleo. She's going to Miriam's party again. And then she's like, hey, go follow her. And he's like, I'm not some lapdog that'll follow Cleo around. Oh, her phone's off. And she's like, Cleo could be really in danger, Louis. You gotta save her and go to Miriam's party. So Cleo decides to show up at Miriam's party, pretending to be sick. But that's when Zane, the evil guy, shows up, basically saying, hey Cleo, you got a laugh throwing me and Water last week. Why don't I throw you this time? And she's like, no. And she's like, and they're like, 1, 2, 3. And they start saying Cleo, Cleo, Cleo. And it's like really creepy. It's just really, really creepy how they say her name, like Cleo. Like, it's really creepy. So yeah, so then they're about to throw, but then Louis is like, let her go, Zane, my boy, my hero. And then she's like, and then he's like, if you would say, and throws her in the water, and he's like, do you even have a brain? And he's like, you told me to let her go. I let her go. Let's go, guys. And and she's like, Lewis, I have something I need to tell you. And then she starts turning into a mermaid, and then Lewis now knows her secret. Lewis now finds out that she's a mermaid. Very shocking. So then she's like, Lewis, you have to help me. And she's like, where's, and she's like, where is everyone? So they decide so Emma decided to freeze the door, and she's like, hey, and he's like, come and help me. She weighs a ton, and she's like, Lewis, we can't help you, or they will turn into mermaids too. And he's like, both of you, all of you. And he's like, yeah. And then it's basically like, Lewis is like, mind blown. So yeah, so basically Ricky decides to use her power of heating things up to basically dry Cleo to turn back into her human form, because that's basically what Ricky can do with her power. And then Ricky she starts to heat Miriam's pool, and then Zane shows up, and he's like, I think you need to help with your heating system. So he's like, this is all mind blowing. And then Ricky's like, if you tell anyone, we'll maim you. And he's like, whatever that means. And he's like, guys, if I'll never tell, because if anyone found out, you guys be turned to science experiment. So you water things, you freeze things, and you boil things, and you all grow tails. And he's like, pretty much, Lewis, pretty much. Yeah, that's basically pretty much Lewis. So, yeah, Lewis is basically the smart guy of the show. My boy. So it's like, my boy. And then it's like, so yeah. So it's like, go, and so she's like, Emma's like, she's quit swim team, and she's like, Emma, I know that was really hard for you. And she's like, yeah, so they said, dude, then they said, yo, Ryan, that's the other, so that's a funny ass. So, oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
He just, okay. Then, so what happens is that so then he's like, this is all weird. And then she's like, I like this. And he's like, sometimes it's cool. Then it's like, sometimes it's cool, but then sometimes it's not. So then Ricky's like, she has 3 words for it. Totally, absolutely awesome. So then that's where the episode ends. So, yeah. Second episode of h2o season 1. I'll be excited to review this series because child show of mine, one of my favorites, and I like all the characters. For the first season, Ricky is my favorite character. Lewis and Ricky are my favorite characters again, because now that Lewis knows the girl's secret, now that he knows he's going to protect them for all 3 seasons, because all 3 seasons. So, yeah, so he's gonna protect them, and I really like it. So anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for more h2o. And I'll see you next time for more h2o.